morning. Oh, thank you, Jenny. Look at her.
Well,
She's
I
like,
turned it off, so I had my thing right there, so I'd remember to turn it back on.
thank you, Jenny. All right. So we are on, I don't know what week of our Energy Bus book club. And we're starting with chapter 21 today. So yeah, Jenny, do you want to read or do you want me to read? I can try reading, see what happens.
I don't care.
Okay.
I'm good. Okay. That night, after one of the most productive days at work George had experienced in years, he had a dream. He was driving a bus, and on it were his employees, his wife, and his children. The bus was racing down the mountain toward a big black hole in the ground. Just as the bus was about to crash and explode, an invisible hand lifted the bus, George and all his passengers to safety. Oh, sorry. Then, as George, his team, and his family stood on a ledge overlooking the abyss, an incredible feeling of peace came over him, and he heard a whisper call out to him, "Trust that great things are happening." He had woken up in a deep sweat thinking about the launch and his team. He realized that the most critical 3 days of his life lay before him, yet he also had an incredible feeling of calm that somehow it would all work out. Somehow it would all come together. The feeling even surprised him, but after the first week and a half, he was getting used to surprises. Life, he was learning, could change in a flash. 1 minute you think you're headed towards certain destruction, and the next you're sitting on a bus strategizing about business with a bunch of people who probably never actually had taken a business class in their lives. The biggest surprise of all is that what they say actually works. Yes, George was getting used to surprises.
So in that chapter, the one thing that I kind of highlighted there was trust that great things are happening. And I think that that should be our mantra for life, is just trust that great things are happening, and because so many times, we just get so hung up in the what if, and we worry about things that may never come to pass. And there's some crazy statistic about the amount of things you worry about that never actually come to pass. And if you think about it in your own personal life, it's very rare that the things I'm worrying about actually happen. And so I waste all this time and energy being stressed out about something that never even happened. And it's not fair to me. It's not fair to my family or whoever's around me. And as I'm being all grumpy because I'm worried and stressed out, and so I think that is something like we should put on a Post-it note or write on our mirror or whatever, someplace where we can see it every day. Trust that great things are happening. You get what you expect. And if you're expecting great things to happen, great things will happen. So Gina said her mama's famous saying was, "We'll cross that bridge when we get to it." Yep. I've said that a lot in the last 2 months because everybody's like, "What are you doing about school?" I'm like, "We'll cross that bridge when we get to it." "What are you doing about this?" "We'll cross that bridge when we get to it." Absolutely, Gina. I'm with your mom. All right. Okay. Go ahead, Jenny.
Okay. What's missing? What can I do better? How can I show my team I'm on their bus? George thought as he sat at the bus stop Wednesday morning, thinking about all of his conversations with Jamie and Jose and his team's overall performance yesterday. The day's events ran through his mind in a way a football coach would revisit every play of a game, or a dancer would rehash every move, every twist, and every turn of her performance. It was then that one remembers successes and mistakes and thinks of should-haves and could-haves. It's a crucial time that one improves if they are willing to learn, grow from mistakes, and build upon their success. George had always known this, but somewhere along the way he had forgotten to stop learning and growing. But now he was thinking clearly again, and he remembered the great advice he had received from his college lacrosse coach, who had told him, "The goal is not to be better than anyone else, but rather be better than you were yesterday." Highlighted that.
Yeah, me too. I was like, amen.
Indeed, George wanted to be a better leader, a better person, a better husband, and a better father. He wanted Jose to feel good about working for him, and he wanted Jamie to see that he wasn't going to implode. George's goal was to improve every day, help his team improve, and hopefully deliver an incredible launch to the executives of the energy company. He knew it was a long shot, but hope and a desire to change and succeed were all he had left. His team made great strides yesterday, but he also knew they would need a lot more to turn the impossible into possible and succeed on Friday. He knew something was missing, but he wasn't sure what. He pulled the rock Joy had given him out of his pocket. Although he felt silly carrying around a rock in his pocket, everything else Joy had said made sense, so he figured she must have had a good reason for giving it to him. He looked at it and remembered what she had said. When you find the value in the rock, you will find the treasure in yourself and in others. Maybe there is a gem inside here or something like that, he thought. Then he laughed at the crazy thought. No way, as if Joy would give me a rock with a diamond inside it. I don't think so, he said to himself. But what value could possibly be found in this rock, he wondered. Maybe it was from an ancient civilization or something like that. Or maybe the rock symbolizes strength. It certainly did help me when I was having it out with Tom, he thought. Or maybe it was from a special river. Or perhaps the rock became valuable because it was a special gift from her and because she had received it as a special gift from her teacher. I have no idea, he thought. Maybe Joy will have some answers about the rock and also about what I'm missing as a leader, he thought as bus 11 pulled up. Still going?
Yeah, just keep going.
Okay. George heard a loud chant as he approached the bus. I feel great. Yes, I feel great. Yes, I feel great. Yes, echoed through the bus and through his ears as all the passengers were cheering and throwing their arms into the air. Joy, of course, was leading the chant before she stopped to greet George. Hey, sugar, how are you feeling today? Good, he said. What's going on here? And why are you all cheering like this? Emotions, George. They can lift you up or bring you down. We like to say that emotion stands for energy and motion. And your emotional state is all about how the energy is flowing through you. So instead of letting negative emotions take you down a dark road of negativity, sadness, and despair, we can take control of our emotions, charge ourselves up, and let the positive energy flow. Makes sense, but it seems a little corny, George said. Of course it does, she answered. We know that, but the people on this bus are walking off happy, charged up, and ready for the day, while many on the other buses are dreading another day at work. What would you rather be, corny and happy or buttoned up and miserable? It's like an easy choice, don't you think? George couldn't argue with her. He had been miserable long enough to know he would rather look silly and be happy than miserable, anything but miserable. The key is to feel good, she continued. When you feel good, everyone around you feels good. And we're not talking about feeling good from a double latte or candy bar or that kind of feeling. We're talking about a feeling of joy, happiness, enthusiasm, gratitude, passion, and excitement, kind of feeling good. Remember, George, the gifts you bring to the world are not found in your resume, accomplishments, or presents to others. The gift is your presence of feeling good and being happy and bringing this to others. Being around happy and positive people makes people feel happy and positive. Too many people try and please others, and this only makes them unhappy. Better to focus on feeling good and letting this feeling and happiness shine on others. When you feel good, you give from power. When you feel bad, you try and feel good by pleasing others, and you only give away your power, and this makes you weaker. Does that make sense? She was making perfect sense to George. He had spent his life trying to please his boss, his wife, and everyone else, only to grow more unhappy every day. Now he was feeling good again. The energy vampires were off his bus, and his team was on the right track. Feeling good definitely made a difference. But George was also still thinking about his day yesterday, and he was still trying to figure out what was missing. He told Joy about his day and his meetings with Jamie and Jose and how they had blasted him with the truth and how it had really made him realize how destructive he had been as a leader. He told her about the positive team meeting and the way they had all responded. Then he asked her point blank what wasn't he doing that he could be doing that would make a difference. After all, I'm feeling good and they're responding, but not as much as I would like. There's still something missing. I know we can do even more. There has to be something more than just feeling good. There is more, Joy responded immediately. You're definitely a changed man, George. I'm proud of you for that, but now you've got to be a changed leader. And the key to this change is in your heart. What's missing is your heart. This is what we've got to help you tap and share with others. It's all about heart, George. I hope you're ready because once you take the next step on your journey, there ain't no turning back.
Okay, so there are a couple things that I wanted to point out in this chapter. So I loved when she was talking about emotion standing for energy and motion, right? And we had a Jubilee that was our theme, right? Was it Jubilee or Summit? I can't remember, but we had something, and emotion was the theme of that. And so I wanted to, and I love this when he said, this seems a little corny, because but when you are doing corny things, it's almost like it throws you off kilter and it lets your guard down, right? And that's when you truly can really feel that energy, and you can really like, it's like unbridled, right? And so a perfect example of that is, for years, right, I would go to Jubilee and I would sit there and I just kind of look around like, everybody's kind of crazy. It's funny and it's fun, but everybody's kind of crazy, right? So then a couple of years ago, I was working with my business coach, and I told her, I was just like, I've been thinking a lot about Jubilee, and because it was coming up, and she's like, well, what about it? And I said, every year at Jubilee, everybody's dancing, and I do a little bit of dancing, but just enough to kind of fit in, but I don't, it's not really my thing. Like, it's not natural for me to just jump up and dance and like be in the moment like that. That is not my natural like being. Okay. It's something I have to force. And so, but inevitably what would happen is people are like, come on now, let's go dance. And I'm like, I'm not dancing. And they're like, come on, let's go dance. And I'm like, I'm not, I'm not dancing. Right. And then they'd be like, okay. And then they'd be out there dancing and they look like they're having so much fun. I'm like, I should have gone dancing. Right. And even though I know when I do it, I'm happy, but getting myself to break through that barrier of whatever it is, whether it's confidence, ego, whatever that barrier is, and I'm not even sure what it is, was difficult for me. So I told my coach, I was like, you know what? This is going to be the Jubilee of yes. I said, I'm not telling anybody, but anytime anybody asks me to do anything, my answer is going to be yes. And I have to say yes. Like, I made a deal with myself, and I didn't tell anybody that it was my Jubilee of yes, because some people would have taken advantage of it, Jennifer, and been like, you can't say no to me, so I'm going to ask you to do crazy stuff. And so nobody knew this, right? Yeah, you're like, oh, I could have done so many things with that. Like, I saw it, I could see her thinking like, oh my gosh, if I could go back in time. So, but it was my Jubilee of yes. And I told myself, anytime anybody asked me to dance, to whatever, and I would say yes. And so I did. And do you know, that was literally the most fun I have ever had at a Jubilee, ever. And I saw people trying to get people like, come on, let's go dance. And people are like, no. And then they would almost get nasty about it. They're like, no, I'm not doing it, flat out not doing it. Like, okay, suit yourself. And I was like, and I would never get nasty about it. I was always like, no, not happening, not happening. But I just like, was like, I wonder what's holding them back. Like, what is that barrier that they cannot quite break through? But it's amazing that when you do things that are not necessarily your normal state of doing things, like getting up and dancing on the chairs and being crazy at an event like that, right? It throws you off, and it just takes you to another level of like freedom, sort of. And so that's what I felt. And so then it kind of carried on, and I was just like, okay. And it was funny because my kids even commented on it. They were just like, there's something different about you. You're just kind of like, I don't know, fun and light. Like, because like before I was always just like, whatever. And then I would like, run into the kitchen and I'd be dancing really goofy because they're listening to a song and they're just like, okay. They're like, this is fun. Like, this is funny, and so they wouldn't make fun of me or anything. They just thought it was really funny. But that's what it stemmed from, and it was just like letting my guard down enough and putting whatever, the ego, the confidence, putting that stuff aside and just trying to be in that moment. And so I was thinking about it, they're like, we're going to do a dance party. And, my reaction when they said we're doing virtual dance party was like, no, like that is not happening. And then I found myself going, I got to figure out how to make that happen and not look like a total idiot, because I need to do that. Like it'll help. And when I did that conference back in April or May, at the beginning of May, they had dance breaks, and they were like, when I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you get out of your seat and we're dancing for 15 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever. And the first time I did it, I was like, no, but they can't see I'm not dancing. Like, I was like, I'm not dancing. Crazy. And then finally, after like the second or third time, I was like, maybe there's something to it. I mean, I have been sitting here a while. I mean, maybe I could stand to just kind of move around a little, And by the end of the day, I was like, dance party in my office by myself to this goofy song that they played. And I had that song in my head for weeks because they played the same song, the same clip of the same song for these dance parties. But I'm telling you, it changed it. It kind of upped my energy. And then I was more open and to receive the things that were being said. And it truly changes your whole experience when you let that guard down. So Kelly says, I love dancing and make my kids and your kids look at you like that. Yeah. And Melissa said, I feel the same. It's like stepping out of your comfort zone. It seems at first awful, but the payoff is worth it in the end. Yeah. And it's just like, one of those dance like nobody's watching. Well, I'm pretty sure nobody's going to be watching this week when we do our virtual Jubilee. So have at it. But I mean, it's one of those things. And so going into this experience that we're going to have later this week, I challenge you to say yes. Like when they ask us to do these ridiculous things, roll your eyes, do whatever you're going to do, but then get up and do it and just see what happens. See how it makes you feel. Because like I said, nobody's going to be watching you. They're not going to know that you did or didn't do it, but just see how it makes you feel. Is Jim laughing at me? What's up?
No, Pam just said, I'll be watching you.
Yeah, Pam, you need to videotape that.
I'll be all over that.
So you know what? That goes back to something that you say all the time, which is like, people won't do things because of what other people are going to think. And if they knew how little other people were thinking about them, it wouldn't bother them.
Yeah, they wouldn't worry about it. Exactly. And this is definitely one of those things, but it is, and so that's immediately what I thought of when I was thinking when they said it seems corny. And I was just like, yeah, but like, that's a driving factor that when you do that, like I said, it just kind of throws you off and pulls all those things that hold you back. It just pulls them out of the way and lets you just kind of be, and so it's so true that when you kind of get yourself in that energy state, you attract that. So you attract people that are happy and vibrant and all of that kind of going on. Kelly said, they're really going to care if you are dancing? Probably not. No, they're not going to care.
Well, they absolutely are, because that chip that's in the box, so you can't open it earlier. Yeah, it's still going to be there watching to see if you're dancing.
Right. Don't get me started. So Melissa says, honestly, I hated the idea of a scavenger hunt, but you loved it, right? I know, exactly. That's one of those things you're like, oh my God, do I really have to do this? And then the first person, you see them hop out of their chair and their chair's like spinning because they hopped out of it so fast. You're like, well, crap, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it too. It happens at parties all the time. People are like, I'm not doing that. And then somebody whips their keys in the bowl and they're like, well, I'm not going to let her win. Exactly. So lots of energy there. And so it is, that energy is so important. And then I definitely so I had to read this one part several times because at first my brain was like, wait, what did they just say there? When it talked about focus on feeling good and letting this feeling of happiness shine on others. And then they said, when you feel good, you give from power. And when you feel bad and try to feel good by pleasing others, you only give away your power and it makes you weaker. And I thought, I had to think about it. Like I said, I read it several times and I had to think about it. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Because you don't necessarily find joy in trying to please other people. You do give some of yourself up in that moment. Whereas like if somebody, is wanting you to do something and it's sort of people pleaser sort of situation, if you are already in this great space of energy, you can do the same act, but it's not draining to you. It's just like, I just did that. I made her day. I helped her out there, whereas like there's a difference between you having that excess of energy to give away versus otherwise it kind of turns it into a chore or a have to or a, right. And so I had to read that a couple times because I was like, yeah, I get that. Like I definitely, I feel that because it's important. That's why it's so important for us as leaders to fill our cups. Because I tell you what, at the end of last week, my cup was really empty. I told Jenny about it and she laughed her head off because I had a little meltdown. And she goes, and I said, I'm glad this is amusing you. And she goes, well, you just never get this way. And I was like, I'm here. I'm like, but it wasn't about like the people in the business. It was about the people in the house. Right. And so I was a little like, come on guys, you got to help me out. And normally they do, but my cup was so empty that I just couldn't, I just kind of snapped. And that's why it's so important to pour into yourself, whatever it is. If it's book club, if it's also, you know, reading a book, if it's watching videos, investing in yourself, it is vitally important as a leader to do that, because otherwise you can't give freely and it doesn't boost you, right? It turns into a chore. It turns into a have to, like, oh, I've got to go do this Zoom with my team and I just don't even want to because I just can't even, like, I got nothing left, you know? And it's just, it's not that they've done anything wrong. It's not that, you know, that you don't like them. It's just, you don't have anything left to give. And then it turns into a chore and it's not going to have the same effect on your team as it would if it was coming from that place of energy. And so that's why it's so important to not only to create that energy for yourself, but to protect it. And that's what he's talking about in this book. Like, the energy vampires, don't let them take, like, literally your biggest asset that you have in your body is your energy. And it is a huge compliment to me when somebody's like, you have really good energy. And I'm just like, yeah, I do. Like, to me, that's a better compliment than you look like you lost 20 pounds or have you been working out? Okay. It's, you got really good energy. I'm like, yeah, I work hard on that energy. I mean, I do. I have I like go to the gym for energy. Like, I say gym like that because I don't actually go to gym, just to make sure everybody understood that. That's my favorite compliment. Yes. Not more power to people that do. It's not my thing. So so it is absolutely saying, somebody tell me I'm positive or saying that I have good energy is huge. And when somebody tells me that over the phone, it's even bigger because they can't see my face. They can't see that I'm smiling. If they feel that energy, that's powerful. And that's where you want to be. You want to live in that space of energy because you're giving it. And so you're charging people up when you're talking to them. You know, I think Kelly's like, you're right. I can read her lips. She's so cute. But yeah, so, and then I loved, of course, he segues right into heart, which we all know from the Carpenter, right? You know, and so that is just like a huge thing, is leading with your heart. And I think that just kind of, you know, reading these books and thinking about it, because I know in the past, if somebody said you need to lead with your heart, I'm like, what does that mean? And how do I do that? Like, you give me a how-to guide. Like, how do I do that? Like, I've been in that place and lots of times in my business, somebody's like, you need to add fun. I'm like, and how do I add fun? Like, I'm just like, I'm so not in that space that I just can't even like wrap my head around how do I do those things? And so I love that the last book touched on heart, and this one is, and I think just by pouring this type of training into ourselves, that is going to help us naturally progress that direction, if that is something that's been a stumbling block for any of us. Like, okay, in this situation, how do I lead with my heart? But also, since it is something that keeps coming up, I think it also encourages us to question that. Okay, in this situation, how do I lead with my heart? What does that look like? How does leading with my heart make this person feel? How does it make me feel? And so how do I create that? You know, how do I make sure they know that I truly care about them, you know, as a human, you know? And so I love that it kind of is tying all that in. So it kind of keeps forcing us back in the same direction, you know. That's what I think is so great about all of his books, is they have a similar message, but I don't feel like it's repetitive. Like, I've definitely read series of books by authors and it's very repetitive, but I don't feel like it is. So yeah. Does anybody else, anything else they wanted to add on that chapter? No. Jenny's making faces.
I'm not.
Gotcha. All right. So do you want, what did you say?
I said, I'm going to read.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, read.
All right. George wondered what Joy meant when she said he had no heart. What do you mean I have no heart? George questioned as he pointed to himself. It's right here. It's not missing. Come on, George, I know you've got one, but your heart has been cold, negative, and numb for so long it's gotten closed off. And it doesn't open completely overnight. All this stuff you've been dealing with lately has been opening your heart, which is a good thing. I once heard this saying that God keeps breaking your heart until it opens. And ain't that the truth? Think about it. Every struggle, every challenge, every adversity brings you closer to your heart, to your true self, to who you really are. Sometimes you've got to be broken down to the point where you feel powerless to discover your ultimate and true power. And I see this with you. That's why you came on my bus, because it was time to get in touch with the real positive and powerful you. George thought about his flat tire, his marriage problems, his work crisis, and his meeting with Jose and Jamie. And he knew she was right. Everything was causing him to start blaming himself and start looking at himself. He had never thought about having an open or closed heart before. He was just glad that he hadn't had a heart attack yet. And now it's time for you to lead, George, she declared, not manage. I'm talking leading with positive, contagious leadership. This is what your team craves. They want you to lead with heart. It's the missing piece you've been asking about. The heart is your power center. It's where contagious, positive leadership comes from, and the more open, powerful, and positive it is, the more powerful you are. She's not kidding, Marty spoke up from the back of the bus. This is not rah-rah motivational stuff. It's real peak performance science now. In fact, I found research published in numerous scientific journals conducted by the Institute of heartmath.org. Marty picked up his computer and showed George. The screen looked like this. The heart acts as an emotional conductor and radiates how you are feeling to every cell in the body via the heart's electromagnetic field. This energy field can be directed up to 5 to 10 feet away. The heart's electromagnetic field is 5,000 times more powerful than the brain. 10 feet away, 5,000 times more powerful than the brain, Joy shouted as she zeroed in on George to make sure he understood the significance of this research. It means that we are broadcasting our positive or negative energy every moment of the day via our heart, and people are picking up and receiving the signal. That's how we can tell if people are being real or fake, Janice said, joining the conversation. We can feel their heart and know it's sincere or just a facade. You know it, Joy said, and it's why we have expressions like, he has a big heart, or she puts her heart into her work, or they have a lot of heart. We're all walking around broadcasting our feelings energetically, and whether it's positive, negative, excited, calm, angry, or nervous, everyone feels it. Like I told you the other day, George, it's all energy. Your employees are turning into your broadcast station and they want your energy. They need you more now than ever, and you need them. If you want them to receive more positive and powerful energy, then you've got to broadcast that power by opening and tapping the power of your heart. I don't know how to do this, George said as he looked around anxiously at Mary and Joy, knowing he had only 2 more days before his product launch. How do I lead with heart?
Okay, so one of the big points in this chapter is leading with positive, contagious leadership. Hello, that is Pam Cliff through and through. Like, yeah, I mean, you just like, you know, she's so positive in the energy that she has in the business. I mean, heck, half the time you call her, she's like, hello. Like, I mean, it's just like, even the way she answers the phone. I mean, it's very powerful. I mean, think about when she gets on a Zoom, you know she's there, and it's that energy that kind of comes through, and it's significant. Kelly says, my team yesterday at our team meeting, we were talking about Pam and how it is so contagious. It is. And before I was even in Tupperware, the very first time I met her, as I said, she was literally the most attractive woman I'd ever met. I mean, it was literally like a homing beam. Like, I couldn't not gravitate towards her. I was sitting at a table with, I think there were 4 of us in total there. And then from the moment she walked in, I had to do everything to keep myself from physically turning my body towards her because she was so positive. And at the time, I needed that so desperately in my life. And I mean, I was faking it, and I was doing okay faking it, but I knew I was faking it. So I was thirsty for it. And so it was all the time. And then when I talked to her on the phone, it was that very, like, it was intense. It was an intense positive energy that she had, and that I couldn't get enough of it, which is why I would go to lunch with her, or I would, we would talk after meetings and things like that, just so I could just get more of that. And that's what each and every one of us has, that same power in us that we can tap into. We just have to be made aware that it's even there, and then do the things to be able to tap into that. And those things are, filling your life with positive things, cutting out those negative things, and being very deliberate about what you are allowing in your headspace and in your heart. And so I remember there was a trainer, and she would, and so she taught, she's the owner, I don't know, founder of the Direct Selling Women's Alliance. And her name was Nikki Kihoho, and she's from Hawaii. And so she gave this great speech, and she said that there are things that she physically does when she is feeling like a negative energy off of somebody. She's like, I put my helmet on to protect my head. And so she does this, like, she's like, I'm putting my helmet on in this invisible helmet. And then she's like, and I put up my invisible armor to protect my heart and all of this. Right. And so she said, but you can't, like, in a conversation, just do this motion like you're putting this invisible helmet on your head. She said, but you know what I do? And it's a signal to me saying I'm putting my shield up to protect myself, is that if she's dealing with somebody and they're getting, like, their negativity is getting into her head, she will just touch her forehead. And when she touched her forehead, that was her signal to herself, like, I'm protecting myself from this. Like, this is my barrier. And then she said when she felt like somebody, like, whatever they were saying was penetrating her heart and it was starting to have that effect on her. She said she would, like, if she had a pin on her jacket, or if she wore a necklace, she would touch whatever that was. So she would, like, touch her necklace as she's talking. And it was so subtle that nobody would notice. And lots of people fiddle with necklaces and things like that. Right. But that was her signal to herself. Like, my heart is protected. Like, I'm not taking this in. And so it was, she would still continue the conversation, and then, end up getting out of the conversation just to kind of, because it wasn't serving her, but she, just to be polite and not to, shut anybody down, but she would shut them down. Like, she would shut them down from her. She would cut herself off from that energy coming into her. And so there are lots of little things that you can do to protect that. But the two biggest things you need to do is put that positive energy into yourself, and keep out that negative energy. Those are the two things that you can do to have that contagious energy leadership, right? And it sounds so simple, but it makes such a huge impact when you do those things in a purposeful way in your life every day. And yeah, the first day you may not feel it, and the second day you might not feel it, and the third day you still might not feel it. Keep doing it. Keep doing that to protect yourself, so that you're protecting yourself not just for you, so you can live a happier, positive life, but for everybody that you come in contact with. Think about the recruits you haven't recruited yet. They deserve a great leader. They deserve a positive leader with good energy to pour into them, so that they can get confidence, so that they can be better people, so that they can do those things. That's who you're doing it for. You're doing it for your kids. You're doing it for all those people that you love, that you come in contact with all the time. You're doing it for those people as much as you're doing it for yourself. And so when you think about it that way, it's so important. I mean, that is where the little things make the big things happen, right? And that's the, the fable of throwing, like, the starfish back into the ocean, right? You can't help everybody. You can help that one person, but you can't do any of it if you don't have anything to give. And so it's so important to do that and to protect yourself with that and with the energy. So our next chapter is kind of long. So the question is, do we forge ahead with that, or do we wait? Because the next chapter is 10 pages. Because we could talk a little bit more and then just cut the call a little bit early and then go into the next chapter next week. What do you guys think? Opinions. They matter.
Yeah, it is long.
I don't care.
I know it's long. It looks like it has some really good talking points. We're going to want to talk about it. What do you think, Lydia?
I was going to say we have 20 minutes, but I'm fine either way. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I highlighted a lot in this chapter.
I know. That's why I'm like, I think we're going to talk about this chapter for a bit. So I don't want to go too over for everybody.
Yeah.
Start the day off in the hole. So, awesome. All right. I'm going to stop the recording really quick. Does anybody else have anything that they want to share about any of this that we talked about today? Kella, let me look. she's, she's not muted. She's literally not making any noise.
So,
Well, it's kind of goes to like you dancing. Like when you dance, when nobody can see you, you feel stupid. And like you're on Zoom and nobody can hear you. So I kind of feel silly when I talk out loud. So I just mouth it. You know
That's
what I
so
mean?
funny. No, I'm the opposite. If I'm dancing and nobody's around, I feel cool.
Well, I meant like
I feel like a badass.
I mean, it's
Everybody
not that I
should see these
don't.
smooth moves. Now, if somebody is in the room, then I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm probably
that
not near as
too.
cool as I am in my head.
Yeah. I'm like that too. Believe me.
I'm like,
I'm always dancing and talking to myself, but when somebody's watching you, yeah, so maybe it's the opposite I meant. I don't know. No, I don't know. You talked about everything pretty much. But I highlighted a lot of stuff to talk to my team about, you know.
yeah, well, there's so many powerful things in these books that are things that you can work with your team on. And the thing that's so great about it too is it's more than just, this isn't about direct sales. This is about quality of life. This is about, how to be happier, have a happier, healthier life across the board. And yeah, it helps your team, but it's huge. And I love, that's like literally my favorite kind of training, is like that business/life training that can be used with anything, with your family, with your friends, with your business, with yourself, and I just think it's so important to pour that stuff on all the time, just to kind of get your head in the right place.
I highlighted something that says sometimes you got to be broken down to the point where you feel powerless to discover your ultimate true power. And I feel like that's so true. Because I was there. I've been there many times, not only with Tupperware, but other things in life. So you only learn from it.
Yeah, I think that's so true. But if you think about it, so let's look at it as a sports analogy, because everything's a sports analogy in my house. So if you think about it as a sport, you would think we had like more people that played sports, but just yeah. Anyways, so like a lot of times, or military, right? So they tear you down so they can build you back up. And in sports, if you're overcomplicating things, they take away elements of whatever it is you're doing to simplify it. And then they add them back once you have that control. And that's kind of, that's exactly what that is. It talks about, tearing you down just so that you can be built back up, like God breaking your heart to help kind of crack it open and help you kind of, open it up a little bit more. But yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Now,
and one other thing.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead. No, I was gonna just say something else. I highlighted, what would you rather be, corny and happy or buttoned up and miserable? And that is so true. Like, what would you rather have people look at you at? Would you rather them think you're corny, or would you rather them think you're miserable? And I would for sure rather people think I'm corny.
Right. Well, okay. So that's like that's the classic rom-com, right? And so it's just like you have the buttoned up businesswoman and then the fun loving guy that comes and breaks through all of her facade and like, puts and throw a kid into the mix, right? A toddler or some adorable little kid who like breaks, opens her heart. And then all of a sudden she has her hair down and it's curly instead of straight. And like, she's wearing a flowy skirt and like, but that's it. I mean, but that's exactly it. I mean, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And it is. And that was my whole experiment with my Jubilee of Yes, was just like, because I just kind of got to this place that I was like, I felt like, and it truly was in my own head. I felt like people were watching me to see what I was going to do. And I didn't want to make a fool of myself in front of people. So I stopped doing foolish things in my mind, right? That's what my mind reasoned it. Now, was anybody watching me? Probably not. Like, seriously, for real? Why would they be watching me? There's thousands of people there. But in my head, that's, I think, what happened. And I just kind of was like, no, I'm just going to sit here. And then,
like I always think I want to have, like, why not go dance or be silly? Because that's not fun. Then you have to watch other people have fun. Like, I realized that when I was a lifeguard. I hated being a lifeguard because I had to stand there and watch other people have fun. And I'm like, this is not the job for me.
That's funny. I don't like watching people have fun on TV.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
like
know, because then you're like,
live concerts, no. I want to be at the concert. Like the ball dropping in New York City, no. I want to be there. I don't want to be like sitting at home going, wow, look at all these people having a good time, and I'm just sitting here in my living room with a noisemaker. Like,
oh, I think I'm the same way, because every New Year's Eve I have my own party. I mean,
Right.
even if it's just my best friend and my kids, we have a party, and it's full music, we're dancing, we're having fun, because maybe that's why, because it's like, why not?
other people are doing it, and I'm going to do it too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
gotta have fun.
All right, I'm going to stop this recording, but I want to talk really quick about our next book.
Okay.
So, all right.